Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I wanted to talk today about getting ghosted and academic English. So the ghosting rate right now, I'm hearing, is around 50%. And it varies by the person because if you get interview invitations, then you're much less likely to get ghosted because each one of those interview invitations is one that they're absolutely going to send you. And it's what the site does with those that they're not sending you. And how is it that that residency sites can get away with not sending a rejection email and not sending it in a timely manner? Well, let's look at a couple of pieces of that. First of all, how they value what you did and the amount of time that you spent in preparing that application is very different than the amount of time and the energy that you feel that you deserve in terms of the time you spent on that. So what you want to do is think of something in terms of building something. So let's say that you built a desk and you want to put a value on that desk. Well, how much is a desk that you built? And there was a movie way back in I want to say the 80s, goodness, where it's called Doc Hollywood. And it was this physician, played by Michael J. Fox, who grew up in a small town, got out of that small town, went to medical school, did residency, and was now on his way to Hollywood or Los Angeles to start his great career as a plastic surgeon. However, on the way, a cow gets in the middle of the road, goes off the road, hits a fence, and says, "Oh, well, I'm sorry I hit your fence. I'll pay for it. I'm on my way to LA." Unfortunately, the fence was the fence of a judge, and the judge and the police made him do community service in the town as a physician. And the one thing that the judge said was, no amount of money can pay me for a fence that I built. Well, in the same way, you value that application, that letter of intent, that CV, all the hours and hours that you put into it, completely differently than someone who sees 200 of those. And while you feel yours is unique, they feel like, well, look, there's 4 of us, and we've got to get through 200 applications. So writing a rejection and all of that is a lot of work. The second thing is this. If you were at the very top, then it's very easy because you're going to get a residency interview invitation. If you are at the bottom, it's also very easy because they can quickly send you a rejection. The problem is the middle. The middle is much tougher. And if they, in their first round of interviews, get enough people that are at the top, then they could send out those middle rejections. But if they are not sure if that group, or if they did the interviews and that group is not good enough and they know that they're going to reject a significant number of those that they interviewed, then the middle becomes, they put that middle in limbo. And looking at the residency offer document, the national one, residency offers go into the end of January and even into the beginning of February. Now, that's more the exception than the rule, but I want to tell you something about the national document. Students have realized very adroitly, I guess is the word, that it's better to create a school document that students can write into, and what they did was they just downloaded the national document and used it for their own school. Because people in the same school have much stronger ties to each other, are much more likely to write in that document, and because of the anonymity, they can still do the same thing. So the reason a lot of the programs are not on the Google Offer Doc, which is, I think I put it on the interview site, so residency.teachable.com/P/P/interview. Okay. And then we go down here and should be in the very beginning. I mean, yeah, so here Google offer an opinion sheets and in-pill link. So this is where the Google offer doc is, the national one. But what students are doing is they're sending out Google Docs for just their school, because students will fill that one out. And many from the school, if they were smart, many of those sites are going to be close to the school and in region. So again, I've talked about this before, but your best chance is in the state generally, unless you're like in Baltimore, where you've got Hopkins and Maryland, which are incredibly difficult to get into, or if you're in, I don't know, Minnesota, you're at the Mayo, or you're in North Carolina, where you're applying to North Carolina. Those are really tough to get into. But if you're applying in state and then locally, which I mean is the region, so are you in the Northeast? Do they know you? Or are you in the Midwest? Or are you in the West? Or are you in the Deep South? So the Google Offer national document is here, and that gives you a good idea to some extent of what residency offers are out there. And I can kind of open it up here just to kind of go through it again real quick. I got CrossFit in 20 minutes. But right now you can see, okay, this is getting filled in pretty well. And you can see that there's still some completely empty ones. And you see that many, if you just even look at the beginning, many of the interviews were sent out December, early January, an email later. But as you continue to look down, you see that the numbers and the days that people are getting interviews are very early on in January. So is it time to freak out? Well, it's time to be concerned, that's for sure. And one of the big things, of course I'll harp on the LOI, but one of the things with the letter of intent is your academic English, this English for specific purposes, or ESP, good enough to write a letter of intent? And the mistake students make is that they considered the letter of intent just like something they handed in to their professors. It's just an assignment to be done. Well, it's not. This time, the assignment is a competition. This time, the assignment is something you do with others. This time, it's like an academic paper where you have multiple authors, multiple eyes on it, to make sure that it's the very best. And again, I just ask that you work with me for the one template to make sure you get that first one right. And then from there, sure, you can make adjustments and things like that. But that first one, it's really tough to get it down. So how long does it take if you're a non-native speaker? And I was in linguistics program and took linguistics classes. And so I know this number, but it takes 7 years to get to your academic English good enough to the point where you would be able to write a top 20 letter of intent, or where you can write academic papers without other people working with you. Now, obviously, you don't have 7 years. You have, let's see, so middle of March is 2 months away. And then after that, it's, kind of a sprint as you go into phase 2. So again, work with me on that first one, and then from there I can help you out, and then you can kind of figure out the last ones. But here are some good resources for academic English, and these are all top schools. The drop-down bar is pulling down. So these are generally free. It's going to say that you can go into a track, so you get a certificate, and maybe you do want to donate quotation fingers to them, but you may want to do it for free first to see if it's something you like. So these are the top 5 that I personally like in reverse order. So number 5, writing and editing specialization. So this is about just really writing, editing, good communication. And this one is the University of Michigan. And you see that 20,000 people have enrolled. And historically, numbers of completers is relatively low. Maybe you would see, a fraction of those actually completing the course. And that's on them. It's not that the course isn't good. It's that the course is something that they didn't pay for, they didn't invest in. So it's almost better to actually pay for it if you want to make sure to get it done, or to have an accountability partner, have someone else that's working with you to complete the course. But this one's from the University of Michigan, and this is improving your writing and editing. Okay. And then there's always a little bit more detail on the course, and then some of the other courses within the structure. And I prefer to take them in the order, because usually the order that they give is usually the editing is the order that you'll need it. So there's a big exponential improvement if you do just one course, and then there's the law of diminishing returns as you continue. But if you're going to be doing this kind of work in your residency, then certainly if it's free, I would definitely check that one out. So the next one is English for STEM, or English for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, and this one comes out of the University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school. For those of you that are not from the States, the Ivy League was initially an athletic conference, and you'll recognize some of the school names. So there's Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia, Cornell, Penn, Dartmouth, and I'm forgetting the eighth. It's really bad. All right, well, they didn't let me in. I applied to Dartmouth. I didn't get in, but I don't remember the eighth one. But there's 8 schools in the Ivy League, and this one is very popular. I think over 100,000 enrolled. So if you're looking at popularity, this is one of the most popular, but it's also one of the most general, in that you're talking about STEM, and that's a real big push that's kind of come out of our government, at least in the States. Writing in the Sciences from Stanford. So again, this one is another huge course, almost 200,000. And this is talking a little bit about what is writing in the science, and then there's some other courses that are similar, and you see that there's some backlinks back to Michigan, or not backlinks, but links to other courses that are similar. And then this one is out of France, I believe. My French is terrible, so École Polytechnique. So I think this one, 100,000 enrolled, how to write and publish a scientific paper. So a project-centered course is sometimes better, because instead of having I'm just going to take a class, you have a specific project that you're going to complete, and you complete it by the end of it. So there's really cool writing classes that not related to academic English, but in terms of writing your first novel, and that's a project-centered course. And the advice in the beginning is very good, and the way they set up groups is really good, and you get feedback from other people, and you talk to others, and it's really kind of neat how the professors set it up so students can talk to each other, and it's really kind of a well done thing. But that's for fiction writing, screenwriting, those types of things. And then this is my favorite, which is out of the University of California, Irvine, which is academic English writing specialization. And although 150,000 have enrolled, obviously very popular, but this one is really what it takes if you're going to be doing college level writing and research. And they just have 4 courses, so it's very quick. The number of courses is different in each of these. But any of these, I think, are very good in terms of improving your English. But if you're applying for Phase 1, Phase 2, obviously the time frame is going to be much different. And I don't want you to be discouraged by that 7-year number, because I think it's important that you do continue to work on it. And there's a great book called Atomic Habits, where he talks about how small habits make a huge difference, and you'll see this in a number of books, but it really does make a difference. I picked up chess recently, and I've gotten my rapid score up to 600, which, for those of you playing chess, you'll laugh. You're like, haha, 600, that's not very good. Bill Gates is, I think, 1,600, and then Magnus Carlsen, best in the world, is over 2,800. But learning that chess on the chess.com, I think is the site, what it did was it reminded me of the path that you take to doing a new skill, which is you're going to have a rapid rise, a lot of excitement, that honeymoon phase. Then you're going to go down. So when I first started playing, they gave me a high score and just saw where I was, and then gradually got knocked down into like the 200s. I took a couple of lessons. I got a little bit better. I got up to 400, then took another couple of lessons and got better. Thought I was big stuff and got to like 588 or 589. But then I got knocked way down to 450. And I was like, man, what am I doing wrong? And I just have such an attacking style. I do this when I coach, and I do it with chess apparently. And what I mean by an attacking style is that I would push my offense way up, and I would have the defenders with soccer, at the midline, not even letting them get over the side. So we just keep kicking it back into their side, And what I realized was, because of my inexperience, it was better for me in terms of keeping or getting past that 600 mark to play the defense. Because if my offense is good, if I'm willing to make those attacking moves, then maybe I'm not making some defensive moves. And what I found was that when I changed to a defensive mindset, what I was doing was building up. And as I started building up, as I started having my pawns protect my higher pieces, the bishop and the rook and so forth, and as I waited to bring out the queen, the most valuable of the pieces in terms of, being able to do many things, but also the most dangerous, because, if she's in danger, then you're going to pull her back because you don't want to lose the queen. Many times, if my opponent loses the queen, they actually resign, and that's it. They give me the match, because it is such a huge shift in terms of points and ability to win the game. So I want to get back to my point, which is that the ghosting rate I'm hearing, not only from seeing the Reddit boards, but also I'm in touch with a little over 150 students right now. What I'm hearing is that the ghosting rate is up to about 50%, which is that 50% of programs, up to 50% of programs, are not communicating a rejection to the student. And here we are, we're about 16 days from the last day that you're going to hear that rejection letter, or should hear that rejection letter, and start preparing for phase 2. Now, that is really valuable information, and I would ask for a rejection if you haven't gotten one. I'm not saying that you want a rejection. I'm saying that you want confirmation that they have completed it. So the way to write this to the RPD is not to say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Have you made decisions yet? What you just want to do is say, I just wanted to confirm that you have completed your interview offer period. So, dear RPD, I know you're very busy. I just wanted to see if you have completed your interview offer period. And if you have completed your interview offer period, thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to look at my application. I just wanted to continue, let you know that I'm continuing to be interested in your program if phase 2 comes up, and would love to reach out at that time if space is available. Now, some places might be very kind and say, well, we're just saving your application for phase 2. Well, only 230 programs out of the 4,000 were in phase 2. Or no, 230 spots out of the 4,000 were in phase 2. We've been maybe a fewer programs than that. So that's not much of a chance, unfortunately. We're looking at less than 1%. So you still got 16 days. Hopefully another couple trickle in. But I'm letting you know that if you have not heard anything yet, then you may unfortunately be part of that 1,500 that doesn't get it. To be fair, this is the least qualified residency graduating class that has ever graduated from pharmacy school. The acceptance rate is higher than it has ever been. It's close to 81% this year. And then I think the P2 class right now, and the P1 class, I'm not sure what the data is, but I think the P2 class is closer to 83%. So 4 out of 5 were accepted into pharmacy school, and many schools support their students and in their residency journey, but some schools don't, and some schools don't have programs, and some schools recognize that they've already got kind of a terrible rate, and that's not going to happen for most of the students. So again, reach out to me, tonythepharmacist@gmail.com, even if it's just, here's my situation, what do I do? And I can try to point you in the right direction.